Welcome back to Indie Author Blueprint, where we talk about what it really takes to publish and succeed as an indie author. I'm Michelle Rayburn, and today this is part 2 of our mini-series on productivity and organization hacks, specifically for those of you treating publishing like a business. And just kidding, if you thought there were only 2 parts, there's actually a part 3. In part 1, we covered mindset and foundational productivity systems. Things like working with intention, limiting active projects, and setting up a next action so you always know where to start. If you haven't listened to that episode yet, just hit pause and go check it out and then come right back here because today we're building on it. Today's episode is about focus, time management, and organization systems. The practical stuff that helps you get things done without burning out or feeling like you're always playing catch up. So let's start with focus and time management systems. We start with focus because without it, even the best writing and the best business plan can get swallowed up by distractions. One of the things I've used as whenever I get into a particularly distracted season is the Pomodoro method. This is where we use a timer, and I'll talk about that in a second. But sometimes we dread writing simply because we think it's going to take too long, or we think we can't work in small segments of time, or we use that can't word again. We say, I'm too distracted. There's nothing that could keep me on track. One of the things that really helps me is to set a timer and say I'm going to work for a certain amount of time, and then I'm going to take a stretch break. And I actually have a little productivity timer that you can program with segments of time, so back to back, like 50 minutes of work, 10-minute break, 50 minutes of work, 10. You can do like these stretches, like sprints. But sometimes you can just use a timer on your phone. And if 50 minutes sounds like too long, like I know that if I don't schedule it, sometimes I actually keep working too long and I need that stretch break. My body protests when I just sit and I don't move enough. But if 50 minutes or an hour sounds like too long, then set a timer for 25 minutes. Write or work on whatever task you assigned yourself during that time, and then take a 5 or a 10-minute break and then repeat it. And if you can't repeat it, well, you've done 25 minutes. But I encourage you to start thinking about getting over that dread. You always should have something you can work on. If you're not motivated to work on the one thing, there's always something else. Like I always have research or marketing stuff or something that I can do. So the Pomodoro hack, to do this, you really don't need an app. You can use a kitchen timer. It's low tech. It's low pressure. It's surprisingly effective. I used to use this when I was cleaning. I would set the timer and say, I'm going to clean for 15 minutes and I'll see what I can get done. And I was always shocked at how much cleaning can happen in 15 minutes. I would make it in my head as if I was going to need hours to clean up. And in 15 minutes, I could make a dent in it and feel motivated to keep going. And that's how this works with your writing and your business work. If you're dreading working on marketing copy, then use this method. It's the thing you're the least motivated really to do. So you're not committing to a whole afternoon, just a focused burst or 1 or 2 of those connected together. The next thing that you might want to try is time blocking. This is very similar. However, this means blocking it out like an appointment. So it's something that goes in your calendar. You might color code your blocks for the things you're working on. Like you might be working on mornings. It's blocking time for the actual writing, but then maybe depending on your focus, where you feel like you're the best, maybe you're creating some graphics for social media in the afternoon, but you're blocking time for that. Maybe you work best at night, or maybe you do marketing in the morning, whatever works. But I block out things in my calendar. I use reminders, then they pop up in the calendar. So it's not just on the calendar, but it actually sends an alert to my phone or my smartwatch. And you can use alarms to end those tasks as well. Sometimes I know I'm going to get working and I'm going to forget about something important, like going to a meeting. And so I'll use my alarm to tell me, oh, this is the end of that time block so that I can get dressed and go to the meeting and not be sitting there in my comfy clothes and I should be running out the door. It can help if you're a workaholic and you feel like you need an ending time. Then these blocks, they motivate the person who overworks and the person who underworks. Another thing that is helpful when you're looking at these project management is to do a weekly review. When you get to the end of the week, you look back and you say, what did I get done? What stalled out? What needs adjusting? And this helps you to stay agile and responsive to real life instead of letting undone tasks build up. So you're kind of self-evaluating and then setting your intentions for the beginning of the next week. Here's where I left off. This is what I'm picking up with on Monday. You have a place to start on Monday morning instead of opening a blank screen on your computer or opening a blank page. One of my clients that I've worked with uses a bingo card method. She makes a grid of tasks related. She did this when publishing her book. All the things she had to do. It might be not just writing the chapters, but providing the bio, writing the acknowledgments, setting up social media posts, launch plan, recording a video, whatever is all related to launching that book. And then she marks them off, or you can use a sticker, whatever, to get the blackout bingo. Like you cover the whole thing, you get all of those things done, and then give yourself a reward. So that's a very visual thing you can hang up somewhere and use that bingo card. So it doesn't have to be just the businessy sounding methods of putting something on a to-do list or in your calendar, whatever motivates you. You might put dates on some of those as well so that you know which bingo square you need to go to next. The thing that's been game-changing for me has been tracking my time. I use the My Hours app. It's all one word, My Hours. And I log the time I actually spend on writing, editing, marketing. I do this with my client work because I'm billing, but I do this with my own work so that I track where I'm using my time. And one of the reasons this matters is because when you see the truth of where your time goes, you can adjust your schedule to match reality and not some kind of fantasy. You see how little or how much you worked on your project in a month. The other thing that helps me with is I'm using the same kind of time tracker that you would use, like I said, for billing your clients. And when I used to work in an agency, I billed clients for time. And when somebody would come over to my desk, and this happens at home when I'm working on a client project, if somebody from my family comes to my office to ask me a question, I say I'm on the clock, because I'm not going to stop the clock I'm not billing my client for my personal stuff. And so I don't want to be interrupted. And it works for me in my writing as well, in all the tasks related to it. If I'm tracking, I can, in my mind, say, I'm on the clock. I can't go to social media right now. I'm on the clock. And so using that, I just start it, put the task in, and put an ending. And then you can run like a monthly report and see where you used your time. Okay, we're going to talk about digital organization systems. We want to tame that digital jungle. So let's talk. If this is your struggle, organization will get you started. In a moment, I'm going to give you a hack on what to do if you feel like you don't have time to go back and reorganize everything you have. Here's the goal. We want to have a master folder for each book or project, and inside that we want subfolders with drafts or research or feedback, promotion, whatever you need to have in there. If you're the publisher now, you're going to have a place for the cover file, the interior, the ebook, the marketing pieces. Make those subfolders so you can easily go to and grab what you need. Then within those, you want to have a naming convention that you follow. Whatever it is that you follow, you want to have it so you could find something when you're searching. We're not really limited like we used to be on how long a document name could be. It can be much longer now than it was back when we first had computers. So go ahead and name it the title of your book, or something that helps you find it more than just the title of the book. Then some people include the year-month-date or something like that, so they always know when they're on the latest one. And then they might use underscores in there to separate out sections. And then you should be naming them draft 1, draft 2, draft 3, that kind of thing. And throwing all the ones you're not going to use into some, if you want to keep them, put them in some kind of archive folder so they don't get mixed up in those drafts. But if you're consistently naming with the date and the draft 1, draft 2 method, you aren't going to have final, or some mystery like final edited, final whatever. I just don't use the word final unless it's truly final. I prefer not to use the word final because I always have something I have to change. So I prefer to use a date rather than final. So I know, oh, that's the latest one that I did, because there might be some updates that come later. With the file management, then, I strongly advise using some sort of cloud sync. So not just a hard drive that sits in your house. If you're not backing up your files, that means if your one device crashes, you don't have your files somewhere else. I can pick up and keep working on one from my desktop to my laptop because they're all backed up in the cloud. I use OneDrive, and the reason I like it is because it gives me, when I subscribe to Office 365, it gives me a terabyte of backup storage space, so my documents and photos all have a place to be backed up on a cloud. But also on that cloud, I can go into OneDrive, look at the particular file, and I can see the versions of it. It saves it shows all the revisions. So if I accidentally overwrite something, I could go back a step or two and get back the document and download it, a version of it before I messed it up. So I like to, that just gives me so much peace of mind. If I set something down on my keyboard, I did that. I was stacking up books the other day, and all of a sudden I realized my keyboard was backspacing because I laid something on the keyboard as I was packing up a bag. So you want to make sure that you have those backups with those files so you can always find them. Now, I said there would be a hack here. If you don't want to go back and reorganize the big mess you have, I don't remember what book it was in. I'm going to talk about with email in a second, but I read in a book that said, start from where you are. Just create a folder that has the archives of the things that are sort of mixed up that you can't find, like all those downloads. Take everything in your downloads folder, put it in a folder. Maybe you want to label it files to sort. Okay. So you put everything you have in there, unless you already have it organized. And it just sits there. It stays backed up. It's there if I really have to go searching for something. But now I start today with my new organization system with my client names or my project names or my personal documents. And I move forward with the organization, and I don't worry about finding time to sit and sort all that old stuff. So like I said, it gives you peace of mind to know it went somewhere. It went into this, I must sort this folder, and I probably will never sort it, but it's still there. So moving into email hacks, this was where that, whatever book it was I read, this was where it said, move forward, pick a folder. It actually said, call it sorted, just call it that, and take all of that stuff that you didn't read and you think, well, you've already skimmed through it. You're thinking, I've read the important stuff. I don't think I missed anything important. It recommended just dragging it all into this sorted folder and starting with a fresh, clean inbox. And now starting to organize. This was freeing for me when I did this because I didn't have to find a day to organize all this junk that I probably didn't even need. And yes, I can sort it by who it's from and delete whatever, but it was just overwhelming. So I put it all into that folder. I can find it if I really need to search. And then I started moving forward. So now I have specific folders for things like I sort some automatically into advertising folders. I never look at them, but it's all those emails I get, the marketing ones from places. But every one of my clients has their own email folder. I have a speaking folder. I have one for personal family receipts. All of those have a folder I can drag things into either after I've read them or if it's something I wanted to save and I didn't want to delete it. I don't just delete. I want to be able to go back and look at the communication I've had with my clients. So that's why I drag that stuff into a folder with their name on it. And I do that right after I read them. Now, if I get behind, like I've been recently traveling a lot, I might have a lot of them to sort. Then I go ahead and sort them by who they're from because I can look at a big bulk of, oh, these were all Amazon notifications. Drag that whole chunk into the sorted folder. I don't need to read them all. Same thing with Facebook notifications, that kind of thing. And then I get down to those ones that I really have to respond to. So when I'm managing multi-author compilations, I have folders and subfolders for the ones I've read and the ones I'm processing. If they're sending me headshots, that there's a folder where I can keep that. Whatever you need to organize, creating those folders and having a system of reading, moving. It's just easy to drag it over. So you can call it a single folder of archive and move everything into it, or a single folder of sorted, whatever it is. I encourage you to have a way of moving forward instead of worrying about going backward and fixing things that you probably don't care about anyway. Okay, we have a few more things. This is why you see we have a part 3 because there was way too much to cover. So let's talk about physical space systems. Your environment impacts your mindset more than you think. So at the end of your writing day or work day, if you work from a home office like I do, I encourage you to put away the books and papers, file the things that are on your desk, tidy it up, put it back, put away the cords, whatever you got out, set out what you need tomorrow, make it look like it's ready for you to come to work and set your laptop down or whatever you're going to do and get started. Once a week or so, I do a little bit more of I might have stacked a couple of things. I want to file and sort anything that's still stacked. My writing space, my whole office is like 10 by 10. And I have a desk and a work table and a little side chair and a cabinet and a bookshelf and all these things in there. And yet I keep that space super organized. The rest of my house can be complete chaos and I can close the door and work in a peaceful place. And I encourage you to stay on top of it because it's just like when you set the timer, you'd be surprised at how quick it is to keep on top of putting things away if you just take 5 minutes every day to do that and make it part of your routine. The reason this is so important is because I used to spend a lot of time shuffling and moving and reorganizing, and that was one of my distraction techniques to not do the writing. So if you find yourself shuffling and reorganizing a lot, I encourage you to reorganize once and then have a daily habit of putting things away. Before we wrap up, let's do a couple of bonus time management hacks. Some people use a sticky note system where they write their top priorities for the day on a sticky note and leave it on their desk where they're ready to go. Some people use a journaling system like the productivity journal that Michael Hyatt has, where you set your intentions, your goals, your top priorities for the next day before you finish. Whatever it is, come up with a system that works for you where you know where you're starting each day. For me, it's my calendar directs what I've put in there for my projects. And then I leave myself a note sometimes for where I'm beginning on a client project. I also use Asana with one of my clients. That's what they use. And that is very helpful because I have deadlines and dates and I can just open it up and see my top priority in there when I log in every day. I encourage you to use a 2-minute rule. If it takes less than 2 minutes, like sending a file or replying to an email, do it now instead of adding it to your to-do list. It is faster to get those small things done rather than putting them off. They start to feel really big after a while, and they really only took 2 minutes to do. I also encourage you to try a weekly time review. Look at how your time was spent. If you try doing that time blocking thing, you can see like where the leaks were. Compare it to your calendar. Was there a lot of time where you felt like you weren't really thriving because you got distracted? Figure out what you could do to pivot or adjust a little bit the next week based on your evaluation of this week. My big reminder to you is to treat your writing and your publishing work time just like you would with a meeting with a publisher, because the future you is the publisher. You are the person doing this work. So you're treating yourself as the boss and you're treating yourself as the client. Those are two separate roles, but I know you can do it. So on one day you're wearing your hat of being the author and the next day you're wearing your hat of being the publisher. That's it for today's deep dive into time and organization systems for indie authors. I don't want it to go too long, so we're going to have a part 3. Just a couple of action steps for you. If your desk is a mess or your inbox is overflowing or your files are chaos, it's okay. You don't need to fix it all at once. I encourage you to start small. Choose one thing that you can implement this week. Maybe it's naming your files better. Maybe it's blocking off Thursday mornings for a specific task, whether it's writing or business related. Start where you are. Don't wait until you feel ready. Don't compare yourself to somebody else and think that you have to have their system. Build the system that supports who you are right now, not some idealized version of yourself that looks like somebody else. In the next part, we'll talk about some specific tools that I use, some recommendations. So we'll get into that. Stay tuned. And hey, if this episode has helped you out, I encourage you to share it with a fellow indie author or leave a quick review on Substack or on wherever you're listening to the podcast. Your support helps me reach more people. And this is really me putting all my coaching content into a packaged format where you can process it and you can share it with your writer friends as well. So I encourage you to do that. That's it for today's Indie Author Blueprint. Build the systems that support your goals. One file, one task, one block of time at a time. Keep showing up for the work and it will start working for you.